Hi everyone, this is Veronica Uribe from Echo by Veronica Uribe. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Dennise Rodriguez. How you doing, Denise?
Doing good. Happy to be here. Very
Thank,
excited that you invited me.
thank you so much for coming. This is gonna be an exciting. This is an exciting time to be here, and we are happy to have you. Okay, so tell me who you are. Who's Denise?
Okay. Well, I am a daughter of God,
Mm-hmm.
number one, and I'm a wife. I've been married for 16 years to my
Wow.
husband, Rigo Rodriguez,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also a mother of two. I have a 13-year-old son
Mm.
and a 10-year-old daughter. She will be 11 next week.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's who I am.
Okay. What do you do?
I have well right now
What
I do
right now?
everything. I am a teacher.
I'm a
I
homeschool
am
mom.
I'm
Oh
a
my
homeschool
gosh.
mom. I never thought I would do that, but yes, I'm a homeschool mom. I'm a cook, a little bit of everything.
I'm the chef.
I'm the chef. Yeah. I'm not a driver because we can't drive anywhere, but no, I have a business.
Mm-hmm.
It is I own a business with my mom and my sister,
Mm.
and it's a residential and commercial cleaning business.
Mm.
And that's what we do. That's what I do for a living.
Okay, good. So that's good that you work with your mom. Oh, that's awesome. So, tell me about yourself. Tell me what I know that I've known you for many many years, for about 13 years, and I've seen how you're a family that loves Jesus, and you have kids that they're amazing, and I really admire you, and then I wanted to know how did you start your relationship with Jesus?
Well, I'm from Peru,
Uh huh.
and I came when I was 10 years old.
Hmm. Oh,
I
before that, tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself. How did
Yeah.
your childhood and all that, and then
Yeah. I didn't grow up in a religion, I
mhm,
didn't I always knew about God, but I wasn't my parents weren't into going to church or
mm,
anything like that. So, um my childhood, I consider my childhood a very loving, stable childhood
mm,
from what I remember. I have a brother that's 5 years older than me, and my sister,
mhm.
Jessica, that is 10 years older than me.
Wow.
And so when it's always been, I was I'm the smallest one. So I've
Mhm.
always been spoiled. I've always been, taken care of all the time,
The
and
little one.
the little one. So I can't say anything really bad about my
Mm,
childhood. When I was 10 years old, my parents brought me and my brother. My
mhm,
sister was already older. She's 10 years older than me. So
mhm,
she was in Peru. She was already working. So she decided to stay back.
mm,
Um, so me and my brother came with my parents, and I was 10 years old when that happened. And I for me coming here was a little difficult. It was a shock because I was always very overprotected
mm,
by my parents. I was
mm,
always very, a mama's and daddy's girl. So coming here and them having to go to work to be
mhm,
able to give us a better life
mhm,
left me not having the same privileges that I had there, not having the same attention that I had when I was in my country.
mm,
So now I'm here, and because I've always considered myself a very timid person, very, I'm not an extrovert, very introvert, I wasn't very talkative. Now coming and only speaking Spanish, not speaking
mm.
English, that took me a while. Like, it
Wow.
literally took me about a year
Wow.
to adapt and to learn English, which
Wow.
my brother, that's 5 years older than me, it took him 3 months, 4 months, because he's
Wow.
more of an extrovert.
Mm,
So I had, I had a lot of issues with that, because I was very shy. I wouldn't come out of my shell.
mm.
you know.
So then you started like fifth grade or you
When I got here, I was in fifth grade.
fifth grade.
Hmm.
Wow.
Finishing
So
fifth grade.
so
Hmm.
ready to go to middle school. Wow.
Yes,
So
yes.
how were those years?
Middle school was rough because it's at the point where I'm wanting to come out of my shell.
Hmm.
I don't want to be that timid girl anymore. I don't want to
Hmm.
be shy anymore. That's, everybody, a lot of the people that knew each other in middle school knew each other from elementary school, and
Hmm.
I needed to fit in. I
Hmm.
wanted to fit in. So, um, I think I've always been up until like 11 years old, 12 years old. I think I was pretty good, with my grades and everything. But then when I got to eighth grade,
Hmm.
I wanted to fit in more and I started to rebel.
Hmm.
And I started to, hanging out with the wrong crowds and the whole boyfriend thing. And,
Hmm.
it wasn't, I
It
didn't
was
make very good choices.
and then you went to high school. What happened in high school?
High school, well, when my parents got divorced
Mhm.
when I was I believe I was a sophomore. I was 15 when they
Mhm.
got divorced, and I went to go live with my mom.
Hmm.
And my mom, she had to go work
Hmm.
and work for many hours so that because it was her on her own.
Hmm.
She's a fighter. She's always been a very strong woman, so she had to do what she had to do
Hmm.
to keep us going.
Yeah.
So, but that gave me time,
Hmm.
a lot of time by myself,
Hmm.
which allowed me to hang out with the wrong crowd, which
Hmm.
allowed me to get into relationships that were not healthy for me,
Hmm.
that allowed me to start experimenting with drugs and
Hmm.
drinking. So, my high school years were years where, I think I was very insecure,
Hmm.
and I thought I could fill myself with those things that could replace the emptiness
The
of
emptiness.
something.
Yeah.
At the moment, I didn't know why I felt emptiness, but
Hmm.
I thought I could replace, with relationships and with going out to clubs and all that. I thought I could replace that
Hmm.
emptiness that I felt.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. So that was like you were 15 and then everything started like pulling apart. And
Yeah.
then did you graduate? So you kept going to school. You didn't.
Yeah, I kept going to school. I barely graduated,
Hmm.
but I kept going to school, and I tried going to college for a little bit, but it
Hmm.
didn't. I was too focused in having fun.
Yeah.
I was too
Okay.
focused on having fun, and well, that led me to get to the point where I felt that led me to a lot of like doing more drugs, getting more into
Hmm.
drugs, and getting more into drinking, and so
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Amazing. So what happened? So now tell me about your when everything started with. How did you come to a relationship with Jesus? Like how did that happen? Like I see you now and then of course I've never known about that story, but I see you now as a woman of God and then as a follower of Jesus, and I never imagined you going through all that. But how did that happen? When did that happen? Tell me about it.
so I at a point in my life, I think I was about 20 years old,
Mhm.
I started noticing that I wanted I wanted to change.
Mhm.
Um I didn't know how.
Hmm.
I didn't know how to change, but I wanted to change because I would do drugs and I would say, okay, today's my last day and I'll
Hmm.
start fresh new tomorrow.
Hmm.
And then the next day will come and I would say, okay, well, today's my last day.
Hmm.
And kind of like a diet, I'll start Monday.
Monday, and then Monday
Mondays.
comes.
Yes. And then Monday comes and then I'll say, well, maybe tomorrow. So
Hmm.
it was always like that. And then I think that's when I noticed that I had a problem.
Hmm.
And at that time, I had a boyfriend,
Hmm.
and which wasn't a boyfriend. It was like an on and off relationship.
Mhm.
And he lived in Virginia.
Hmm.
And he invited me to go see him in Georgia.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, that's fine. At the time, my cousin had a boyfriend that lived in Georgia. So she's like,
Hmm.
I'll go with you. So we ended up getting in my car and we just drove, again, like smoking, weed and doing stuff like on the way to
All the way
Georgia.
to
On
Georgia.
the way to
Oh my
Georgia.
gosh.
Yes, we didn't care. So we get to Georgia. I see him, and he was very cold, but whatever. I only went there for the weekend. And when I was getting ready to leave, I was going to leave, I think it was like on a Sunday.
Mhm.
Um, I left, I started to leave Georgia, and my car broke down.
Hmm.
Now I had a brand new car, like it was a from that year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why the car broke down, but the
Hmm.
car broke down. So I ended up calling my boyfriend at the time, or friend, whatever. And I said, hey, you need to come get me because the car broke down.
Hmm.
And what I didn't know, or what I didn't know because I didn't care, is that he became a Christian.
Hmm.
And now it's like no wonder why he was very distant
Hmm.
from me, because I guess he cared for me, but he wanted to do things right. So
Yeah.
he said, I'm going to pick you up, but I'm on my way to a men's conference and you need to come with me
Oh my gosh.
because I can't drop you off anywhere. I don't have time. So I said, okay, I'll go with you. So me and my cousin, we ended up going. When we get there, he doesn't sit next to me. He says, I'm going to go sit down there with my friends. You go sit wherever you want with your cousin. I
Wow.
said, okay. So I go, I sit there. At that time, it was TD Jakes preaching.
Hmm.
It was a men's conference. I was, me and my cousin were the only girls in there, the only women in there.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how they let you in.
I don't even know. I don't even know. And
Wow.
then I'm listening to a testimony from a famous football player. I don't remember his
Hmm.
Sanders, I think it was his last name. And he's talking about drugs and how he was into drugs and how he had the money and that didn't do anything for him, and how he came to Jesus. And as I'm hearing him, I'm literally crying, and I don't understand why I'm crying.
Hmm.
And um again, I'm an introvert. Like, I'm not the type to be in a church jumping up and down and
Hmm.
hallelujah or nothing like that.
Hmm.
I'm more quiet.
Hmm.
But that day something happened that I was just jumping up and down.
Hmm.
I was jumping up and down and just crying.
Hmm.
And my cousin next to me was sleeping through the
Oh my
entire
god.
conference.
Oh my gosh.
So I leave, and because my cousin had a boyfriend that lived in Georgia, we ended up staying the night at his place.
Mhm.
That night, he said, hey, do you guys want to go smoke? I said, yeah. That was normal for me. I didn't know I had accepted Christ. I didn't know. I didn't realize what the crying
What
was for.
happened? What
I had
happened
no
that day?
clue. So I ended up smoking, and I felt weird. I said, feels so weird. Now, I had tried to stop, like, smoking weed for a while, and I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
And so anyway, so I went to bed. I said, this feels weird. I'm gonna just go to bed. The next morning, do you want to smoke? I said, okay. I smoke again. I said, this is weird. This
Oh my
doesn't feel right.
gosh.
I just felt off. And that day I ended up picking up my car from the shop, and I ended up driving back to Florida with my cousin.
Hmm.
From that day, I never again did drugs. From that day, I remember driving back and crying on all my way back to Georgia. I couldn't understand. They weren't sad tears. They were happy tears, but I
Hmm.
didn't know. I had no explanation of what was happening to me. My cousin was next to me,
Hmm.
smoking, and I'm driving and crying.
Wow.
So I get back. And I tell my boyfriend at the time, I said, this is what's going on. He says, well, he does the prayer with me to accept Christ, but I still didn't know. So he says, go get a Bible. This is what you need to get. And
Oh, wait. You're coming back. You're
yeah,
crying, and then
I get back
you get back. You're settled. Yeah.
hmm
You're so then you speak with who?
with the boy that I went to go see,
Oh,
the
okay.
boyfriend
Your
or
boyfriend.
friend.
Your friend. Mm-hmm.
And he says, he starts speaking to me and telling me that, I had an encounter with God,
Okay.
and if I want to accept Christ as my Lord and Savior. So I
Wow.
accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior. But even up to then, I had no clue what I was doing.
Mm.
I didn't understand that I was being forgiven for my sins. I didn't
Mm.
understand that I was being restored. I didn't understand that my life was going to change.
Mm.
I noticed something was happening with me. I noticed that I didn't have the desire to do drugs anymore and to smoke, to do, to drink or any of that. But I couldn't comprehend. I didn't connect it with the experience that I had in
Mm.
Georgia.
Mm.
So I end up talking to my sister
Mm-hmm.
and telling my sister that, well, that guy, he ends up telling me, okay, go get these CDs to listen to, start listening
Mm.
to worship music, and get a Bible.
Mm.
So I started doing that.
Wow.
And the songs, I remember my first CD was CC Whining. And
Mm.
she's ministering me, like she's like, the songs are like ministering me and they're
Mm.
touching me, like, and still not understanding that I'm a Christian,
Wow.
And I tell my sister, that there's something different that I want to change. And so I told her, I said, I want to change. I want to do things different. I want to start going to church.
Mm.
My sister said, well, I want to go to church with you too.
Mm.
So I said, well, what about that church on North Lake that I always see a whole bunch of cars going in and out?
Yeah.
And so she says, okay, I'm going to call and find out. So she calls
Mm.
and they tell her that there's a Spanish ministry.
Mm.
And I end up going there with her.
Mm.
And the first day I go there, my husband, now my husband, he wasn't my husband then, he's giving his testimony as he's getting baptized.
Mm.
And I'm crying because my brother was going through like a rough time too.
Mm.
And I'm crying and I'm listening. And since then, I just didn't leave church.
Mm.
And it's funny how things happen because all the friendships that I had that were not a good influence to me, they never called me again.
Wow.
It's like God grabbed me and separated me for him,
Wow.
you know? It's like I always say that God is very gentle with me.
Mm.
And that's how he did things with me. He was very gentle. He's like he grabbed me. He put me in a place where I needed to be. He
Mm.
didn't allow people to contact me because they literally stopped contacting me
Mm.
for no reason.
Wow.
So that's how I came to Christ.
Oh wow, that's an amazing story, Denise. Thank you for sharing. Amazing. Like that's not everyone goes through that. Like that. And tell me about how did you meet Rigo, Rigoberto?
Rigo, well, I started going to the
So you saw him the first time, of
yeah.
course.
I saw him the first time, but
The
I
first.
wasn't into him. Like I just was into his testimony. I was listening to his testimony but I didn't see him that way. And
Mm.
then I started going to the young adults
Mhm.
for the church.
Mhm.
And every the young adults it was a small group. At this
Mhm.
time Christ Fellowship was very small, the
Mm.
Spanish community. It was only the I think we only had like one service, only in gardens.
Mm.
So we had a small group of young adults, and everything they did together. They went out to eat. We went out to went out to eat with them together. Everybody was always together. And Rigo was there, and I remember he sat next to me one day. We went to Cheesecake Factory. He sat next
Mhm.
to me. I had my purse on the chair, and he grabbed my purse and put it on his lap. I said, "Oh, you can give me my purse." He's like, "No, it's okay." But even up to then, I still didn't really see him that way.
Mm.
Not until I remember we went to the beach,
Mhm.
the whole group, and we went out to eat to like this
Mm.
Chinese buffet afterwards.
Mm.
And the tables were, there were so many, but the
Mhm.
table was like an L shape.
Mhm.
And he was like at the end of one table, and I was at the end of the other table.
Mm.
And then he was talking about that he played racquetball, and I said, "Oh, me too." And then when I turned around, I saw him, and his eyes just pierced me. He has blue
Oh my
eyes,
gosh.
and I knew, I just fell for him,
Hmm.
and then after that, like we just never separated. We literally never
Mm.
separated.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I love that story. Denise, tell me about a struggle that you remember that you want to share. Like any struggle, any tribulation that you want to share with the audience, with us today, that you think that it may help other people going through that. Is there anything special that you want to share?
Yeah, I've been walking with God now for 16 years,
Mm.
and it's been it's been a blessing walking with Him. He's been so good to me. Um, after me and my husband got married and we had the kids, and uh, we got into sports because my husband used to coach my son's baseball team and my daughter's travel softball team.
Mm-hmm.
And that sports, anybody that knows sports are in the weekend.
Mm.
Church is in the weekend too.
Mm.
So that led us to pull away little
Mm.
by little
Mm.
um, from church.
Mm.
It led us to start allowing certain things that we were definitely no on before, like we would say no to,
Mm.
like drinking, and we would start little by little,
Mm.
like the devil's very deceiving. He doesn't
Mm.
come and give you things. He doesn't give you the whole story. He
Mm.
gives you little by little. He shows
Mm.
you little by little until you start the more you pull away from God, the less one-on-one you have with God, the more no you say to God, the more yes you say to something else,
Mm.
you know?
That's profound.
And we started saying yes
Mm.
to certain friendships.
Mm.
And we started saying yes to going out
Mm.
and drinking again. And that
Mm.
pulled us away and from our relationship with God. We had still said, "Oh, we're Christians. We still go on Sundays once in a while whenever we can." Kids, our excuse was our kids come first, This is every season has a moment, and right now we're focused on the kids.
Mm.
But that was a lie
Mm.
that I had told myself in order to keep on doing
Mm.
what I was doing. And that led us to back in uh, June. That led for us, me and my husband. Me and Rigo went on a cruise,
Mm-hmm.
just a little weekend getaway, just me and him.
Mm.
And when we got back, unfortunately, he was detained by
Mm.
immigration,
Mm.
and that was my tribulation.
Wow.
That was the hardest 2 months that I've had to go through because they they took him to Key West,
Mm.
Chrome.
Mm.
They didn't have room in Chrome in Miami, so they used a jail place
Mm.
in Key West.
Mm.
We couldn't go visit him. I would only, So anyway, so they took him,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember the first when they ended up taking him the first day, the first 2 days, I couldn't stop crying.
Mm.
I just couldn't stop crying. I couldn't pull myself together. Like
Mm.
my husband is not only my husband, but he's my best friend,
Mm.
and we do life together.
Mm.
Whether we weren't in the right path,
Mm.
we weren't making right decisions. We were doing life together, and
Mm.
my better half wasn't with me anymore,
Mm.
and it was a shock. And I didn't know how long this was going to last, how long he was going to stay in there. And I remember I called, I didn't know what to do. I was like, God, show me, what do I need to do? Like, I don't know what to do.
Tell
God put
me,
him,
tell me the moment when you got the call. Did he call you or someone else called you?
yeah. So they, when we were at the port,
Mm-hmm.
they told me to leave. They said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, listen, this might take a while. The immigration officer said, this might take a while. They were very nice with me. Um, this might take a while. You need to just go, and then your husband can catch up with you.
Mm-hmm.
And up until that point, I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if he was going to stay there overnight. I didn't know. I didn't know. So the first thing I did was I need to just contact a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I called my friend Stephanie,
Mm-hmm.
which was such an amazing friend and such a support in those moments. So she said, don't worry about it. Calm down. Come see me. We're going to go to the attorney right now because her brother's an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
an immigration attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, we're going to go see them right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we, I get home. I go see her. And at this point, I didn't know what to do. If anybody that knows me, I'm a perfectionist. I am, I overthink things too much. So in my mind, I did not want to make a mistake of getting the wrong attorney. I didn't know what to do. I had my mom telling me one thing, my brother, I had somebody else. Like, I just kept trying to find my answers in people when I needed to find my answers in God.
Mm-hmm.
And so Stephanie's husband called me one day, and he said something that came from God. And this was the game changer. This is when he said to me, what you he said, I went through what I went through, I'm not going to go into details about that, but he said, I went through what I went through. What you need to do, Dennise, is you need to shut down the voices around you and start listening to his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you're only going to be able to get through this through fasting and prayer
Mm-hmm.
and depending on God. I felt like God spoke to me at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the first time I am feeling anything from the Holy Spirit in a long time, because I had disconnected myself from God. And when he says that to me, I knew it. I knew it was from God. So at that moment, I started to search for God. And God started to speak to me, and I started to search for his, read his Bible again. I started to pray, and I said, I'm going to turn off everything in my life and focus on God.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped watching TV. I stopped, like, literally any entertainment that you can think of. I stopped. And I 100% started to dedicate myself to God. I wanted to hear him. I wanted, I didn't know what I want. I didn't know how I was going to get through this. So a few days later, God starts, like, working with me, and he starts revealing to me that this is this is happening for a reason. That there's a bigger purpose
Mm-hmm.
than what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I like to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I start writing stuff, everything to God. I mean, I have literally probably about 20 pages of things that God would wake me up at 3 in the morning and speak to me. And well, there is one I wanted to share, one Bible verse that I did, that the God gave me, the first verse, and it was on 2 Corinthians 4:17-18. It says, "For our present troubles are small and won't last very long. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and would last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever.
Amen.
And that Bible verse opened up a way to so many different teachings from God, and so many, like, this showed me, God showed me through this, don't focus on what's going on right now. There's a bigger purpose than this. And it ended up to being, I believe it ended up being 2 months
Hmm.
without my husband home. And God was working with him in
Hmm.
there, and he was working with me
Hmm.
at the same time. And I was just thinking today, I knew I was going to come and share my
Hmm.
testimony with you. And I started going back to all the things that I read, all the things that I like, that God put in my heart, and all the letters that I wrote.
Hmm.
And it's the only thing that can come to my mind when I was reading it. I said, God, wow, God, you are the God of details.
Hmm.
There were so many details, like so many, and he was so gentle with me. Like he's more focused on working with me than what I'm going through at the moment,
Hmm.
you know? So he started working with me, and just little details like working on my faith, working on my insecurities, I mean, that was a moment where it wasn't just all about my separation from my husband, but it was a moment where he worked with my personality. He worked with my fears.
Hmm.
He worked with my my the way I am, the things that I don't like about myself.
Hmm.
And that's why I said he's a God of details,
Hmm.
because he grabbed, with perfect timing, he grabbed little details of my life and just said, okay, now we're going to work on this.
Hmm.
And now we're going to work on this. And he was so gentle with me,
Hmm.
so it was a tribulation with a purpose. Like
Hmm.
my husband used to say, it was a supervised desert. You're in
Hmm.
a desert, but you're supervised. God is there
Hmm.
watching you, you know? So,
Wow. Tremendo.
yeah.
Okay, amazing. Wow, Denise. God is good. God is
Yes.
good. And is when he's gonna bring us back with anything. He uses anything to bring us back.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of allowing him, because you open up and said, I have no clue what I'm gonna do. I have no clue. And then just as Stephanie's husband told you, just forget about all the voices and then just listen to
Mm-hmm.
God's voice. That is the most important.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love, the other thing that you said, that sometimes we run to people instead of running to God, is that's um sometimes we waste a lot of days in the tribulation because of running to people instead of running to God. When
Yeah.
we run to God, we find the answers that we need. And that's, thank you for sharing that. I love it. So Denise, I want to ask you, tell me more about the things that God worked in you. What are whatever you want to share, the things that God, you think that God really, really told you you need to change this. Like he was straightforward. Okay, this needs to change. Like now.
Mm, you know, I keep saying God is gentle because God doesn't speak to me that way. He doesn't say, you need to change this now. He's very gentle with me. I feel very spoiled by him.
Hmm.
Um, there are things that have always pop up in my life. My self-esteem, my fear of failure.
Hmm.
That's something that I have always dealt with. That's something that God has always worked with me and will continue, because you know what, my faults, my weakness is what keeps me holding on to him.
Hmm.
So I'm okay with that. I'm
Hmm.
okay with depending on him. I'm okay with being nervous. I'm here and I'm nervous speaking to you, and it's okay
It's
because
okay. Yeah.
I'm holding on to him.
Hmm.
So my weaknesses are my strengths.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's okay.
It's
So
okay.
that's okay. So it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. So yeah, I deal with a lot of that, a lot of self-esteem, not wanting to expose myself because I'm scared. What are they gonna say? What I'm scared of a failure, of making mistakes,
Hmm.
and so God has, he works with me in that area.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. So, so Denise, I we were talking about dreams, and and then I wanted to know what will be. I know that what will be like something that you have in your heart that you would like to do that you know that God is asking you to do, like something that is. I know that sometimes we have our weaknesses and then our fears, and we don't want to fail. But is there anything that God has put in your heart that you want? I mean, that you want to share that, um, and you don't have to be doing anything right now, but
Hmm.
something that is in your heart that God has told you before, like I want you to do this, or I want anything that you
Yeah.
want to share.
Yeah, I love writing.
Mhm.
I love writing.
Mhm.
It it it's good for me. Like I just love expressing myself through writing.
Mhm.
Um, so I would love to start a blog.
Mm.
I actually started a blog a while back. I think it was probably maybe 8 years ago,
Mhm.
and I didn't continue.
Mhm.
That's something that I would like to pick up
Mm.
and do it the right way. My husband's always pushing me to do it. He's always telling me. I do have to get pushed a little bit. I think I'm a
Mm.
very like comfortable person.
Mm.
I tend to get comfortable and where I am. And so he's a good pusher. He does push me to do things. So that's something that I would like to start doing. I would like to share my thoughts and help other
Mm.
women um, that might be going through or might have gone through what I went through,
Mm.
and in that way, because I think we are there's more people that are on the same boat, that
Mm.
are struggling, but sometimes you
More
don't
than you
feel
know.
more than we know, and
Yes.
sometimes you don't feel relatable.
Mm.
That's a lie from the enemy.
Mhm.
We are,
Yes.
the women will relate to what
Mhm.
you're going through. So we're more relatable than what we think. So I need to just um, focus on that and tell myself that, there's somebody out there that needs to hear what I have to
Mhm.
say, or the God wants to use me to, whatever I express in paper,
Yes.
put it out there.
Yes, and I can see that you've gone through a lot. Like you went through as a teenager, your parents were through divorce. Uh, I I think you can help teenagers to deal with that. You can, because of course we, as my and I put myself out there, I made a lot of bad decisions, but I can counsel teenagers saying to don't do that.
Yeah.
like do not don't do the mistakes that I made. So is you have that story. You have the story of drugs, with getting into bad relationships, and then thankfully thankfully God got your attention when you were very young. But sometimes there's so many things that you can share with others that will help that can help other people to get out of there.
Yeah.
And even the situation with your husband, there's women right now that for that reason or any other reason, they're like facing life without a husband, and that's is gonna just just trying to focus to help people to focus on Jesus.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I'm so thankful that you shared that with us, and I'm so proud of you, Dennise. I'm so happy that you're here. Is I have another question. Do you what have how do you want to how would you like to be remembered if your today is your last day on earth? How do you want to be remembered? Um, Besides doing the blog and besides, I mean, I know that
Mm-hmm.
you like to you started something and you want to pick that up. Uh, what else would you like to do? Like, and how do you want to be remembered?
Um, I want to be remembered as a good mother,
Hmm.
a dedicated mother, a dedicated wife. I want to
Hmm.
be remembered as that. I want to be remembered as a fighter.
Hmm.
Um, because I always say it doesn't matter how many times you fall. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. It's how many times you get up.
Hmm.
So I feel like even when I've made mistakes, even when um I'm not where I am, where I want to be with God, I just keep on going. I
Hmm.
just keep on going. And that's by the grace of God too. It's not
Hmm.
even me, but that's. So it's I think if I want to be I would want to be remembered by that.
Hmm. Oh wow! And you're a good wife, and you're a good mom. So if you die today, you're gonna be remembered. No, I'm just kidding. No, no, no. But I think that you're very good. Like you're a dedicated wife and a dedicated mother, and I'm very impressed always how you are like focused on your family, and it's very very it's beautiful to see that in you, and you're a very strong
Thank
woman.
you.
So so that's
No, and I think I remember when I was little, I always if you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would say a housewife.
oh wow.
So that's what I'm doing. I mean, I love being a wife. I love being, you know, I, a mother. That's what I wanted to be since I was young.
Hmm.
So,
So that and you're
so my
doing
dream came true.
that was my dream. And that's it. I you talk about yes, you told me your Second Corinthians the word. Tell me about who in your life has influenced the most. Like if you remember a couple of people that you can tell me like and why they have influenced your life.
um, Influenced my life. I'm gonna say my husband.
Hmm.
I, I, me and Rigo have a very close relationship. Like he's my best friend.
Hmm.
You know, he knew when I came to Christ, he knew more. He had been walking with God a little longer than me,
Hmm.
and he he's the one that showed me about God's love and reading the Bible and any questions that I had when I came to Christ. Um, he's a great father. He's even though he's had um, a rough past, by the grace of God, he's shown me that he's an amazing husband and an amazing father. So he's definitely, you know, influenced my life. He's made me because of him, I am a better person.
Hmm.
So that's I would say him.
Oh wow. Rigo, are you listening? You're getting good points today. Oh my gosh. Okay. How are you now that you're back in your track, like you're back? Okay. Now that you're back, and you're connected again with the Holy Spirit. Um, what would you say to someone that is trying to get back, but they can't? Like, I what words would you say to someone that is not walking with Jesus and
Hmm.
it was a believer before? What words would you say?
I actually put something today. I was reading a book today,
Mm-hmm.
and it said something that's kind of goes with this, and it really spoke to me. And that's kind of where I'm dealing with, like how I said earlier to you, saying yes to God means saying no to
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
So um I'm going to read it real quick.
Yes.
It says, maybe I can read it better this way. There you go. The enemy's deception is hand designed to draw your attention, affection, and worship away from God, the only true fulfillment of our heart's longings. Satan rebelled against the Creator, and he wants you to do the same, to be caught in a pursuit of desires that will never satisfy. The enemy wants you to be more enamored with the pleasures of created things than the pleasure of the Creator Himself.
Hmm.
It keeps going, but just to put a pause on there, like he, the enemy's gonna try to do anything to take your eyes off
Hmm.
God.
Hmm.
And it could be little tiny things, It could be a show, it could be a friendship, it could be a job,
Hmm.
it can be music,
Hmm.
not to be religious or anything like that, but I want to be radical for God.
Hmm.
And that's where I'm at right now,
Hmm.
saying no to certain things so that I can say yes to Him.
Hmm.
And this says, it keeps on saying, it says, remember Eve, who looked to a who looked to a tree to give her wisdom, something that tree was never meant to give her. Instead
Hmm.
of wisdom, she received the knowledge of good and evil. And having that knowledge didn't make her life better like she thought it would.
Hmm.
She then had to carry the weight of evil that she was never meant to carry. The fruit that seemed so sweet didn't satisfy her. Instead, it burdened her with fear, anxiety, and shame.
Hmm.
So sometimes what we think it's something good, it's it's not going to be good, And
Hmm.
sometimes we think my for example, when I had pulled myself away from God and I was drinking, I would say, well, there's many Christians that do it.
Hmm.
That's okay, right? I mean, I love God.
Hmm.
So little lies that you start believing.
Hmm.
So if I can give someone, going back to your question, if I can give someone an advice
Hmm.
that's pulling away from God, or it's putting whatever you are putting in front of you, whatever more attention you have, and whatever's grabbing more your attention, that's
Hmm.
what you're gonna make your. That's what's gonna be your idol.
Hmm.
That's what's going to be. It could be even kids. It could be your own
Hmm.
kids. You know,
Yeah, that's good.
it could be anything. So, your the root has to be God. We have to be planted
Hmm.
on something that's gonna be solid. That's something that's not, that's unshakable.
Hmm.
It has to be our. It has to be God.
Hmm.
And I believe God also allows us to make mistakes because
Hmm.
we're not robots.
Hmm.
He doesn't want us to just be robots.
Hmm.
He's a loving God. He's a loving Father. He wants to teach us. He wants to show us.
Hmm.
So, um, don't allow the enemy to make you feel like you already messed up. It's over.
Hmm. That's good.
You
That's
know,
good.
you can always turn the page.
Hmm.
There's always a beginning. God is a God of beginnings.
Amen.
He's a God of second chances, many chances.
Hmm.
So you can always change your life around. You
Mm.
can always say yes to God so that you can start saying no to other things.
Mm. Amen. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was powerful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Um, that's that was amazing. I love the my position. Yes. That was good, Denise, and I'm thankful that you were able to share that with and I know that that's gonna be so helpful for that person listening, right now, about the sometimes we think that first the first lie that we think that we believe is that nobody else is going through that, and then I'm not gonna have a second chance or whatever. It is what it is. I can do this, and then it's okay. That's my life, and nobody's gonna notice. But it's not about the other people. It's about what is happening inside. What is happening is the root, as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. So is so what Denise, I want you to tell me what are so you're right now you're reading your Bible more. Are you reading any books that
Luke.
Luke?
Luke.
Okay. So
I'm
you're
reading Luke
reading the
right now.
Bible and you're in Luke.
Yeah.
Oh, good. So, so any other books besides the Bible? Are you reading anything besides the Bible, or any book that you remember that it was like, oh my gosh, this is.
Well, I did do I'm not doing it now, but
Mhm.
this is what helped me
Mhm.
get through when I went through that when my husband wasn't here.
Mhm.
The Armour of God by
Oh
Priscilla
wow.
Schreier.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm saying her last name
Yes,
right,
Priscilla.
but
Yes, that's perfect.
but
It's Tony Evans'
Tony
daughter.
Evans' daughter.
Mhm.
So that helped me a lot
Hmm.
in being able to discern
Hmm.
the tactics of the enemy.
Hmm.
You know, to be able to say, no, not today,
Not today.
not today.
Not today, devil.
Good try, but not today.
Wow.
So that was a good book for me. I am reading I picked up another book right now that I actually started it, but I stopped. That's actually what I shared today from that book.
Hmm.
But I can't remember the name of the book. It's by Lisa. Uh,
Bevier.
no,
Um.
Lurker. I don't know her last name. It's I think it's called "It's Not Meant to Be This Way."
Okay.
And so I started reading that a while back, and then I just picked it up today. Actually, today that's
Mm.
where I got that thing that I read you,
Wow.
and it really spoke to me.
Hmm.
Because it's so easy to like get um to get entertained with things.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying entertainment is bad.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not trying to be religious, but everybody knows like I can't seem to balance things, so I just need to be drastic.
Hmm.
Everybody knows, your own faults, your
Yes. The
own
witnesses.
issues,
Hmm.
so it kind of spoke to me about, like about that. So,
Mm, wow, wow. Oh, thank you so much, Denise. And it's been a pleasure to have you here. And is there anything else you want to share with us today, or do you want to add anything today, or anything right now? Yeah.
um I want to maybe speak to the women,
Okay.
and just say that you're special,
Hmm.
that God has a special place for women.
Hmm.
I'm going to share it because I feel like
Yes.
this is what I need to share. So I wasn't going to share it, but because again, I felt like maybe nobody would be able to relate, but then that's a lie, right?
Yes. Yes. I agree with you.
So I was reading today Luke
Mm-hmm.
2. It's just been like in my head all day today.
Hmm.
And let me go back to my notes and it's on Luke 2:19 and
Mm-hmm.
Luke 2:51. Um this is when sorry. Let me go back to. I'm just gonna read it. Luke.
It's okay. And I'm gonna tell the audience that I'm gonna add the in the comments in the comments in the video. I'm gonna add the book name and the author. So
Oh,
you can
okay.
give them to me later. But go ahead.
Okay, so this is the birth of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
When she's Luke's talking about the birth of Jesus and how the shepherds came. The angels showed up to the shepherds,
Mm-hmm.
and then the shepherds went to go visit. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the shepherds went and told their story.
Mm-hmm.
Went and told everyone what they saw. So it says on Luke 18. It says all who heard the shepherd's story were astonished.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is what caught my eye. On verse 19, it says, but Mary kept all these things in her heart and thought about them often. And then
Hmm.
it goes, the shepherd went back to their flock. So it just caught my attention that it just talks about why in the middle of the entire verse it just says, but Mary kept all things in her heart and thought
Hmm.
about them often. And then if you just go a little bit down to the verse, Luke 2:51,
Mm-hmm.
it says, this is when Jesus was left in the temple, when he stayed back and his parents left, and the parents had to come back
Mm-hmm.
and get him.
Yes.
And then it says on verse 51, it says, then he returned to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them. And his mother stored all these things in her heart. Again,
Hmm.
so that to me, when I read that, I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And I actually wrote something, like some notes. And it
Hmm.
says, amazed and curious on why the Bible keeps on saying that Mary, Jesus' mother, kept her thoughts to herself.
Hmm.
Why would God even mention this in the Bible?
Hmm.
Was he aware and cared of what she was feeling? Did it matter to him? I wonder how God dealt with her in private, with her
Hmm.
thoughts and her feelings. I know he works with mine, so he had to work with hers as well.
Hmm.
Also, the complex mind of a woman, how she analyzed and pondered on activities and that were happening around her. The wisdom that I see she had for not speaking her mind at all times.
Hmm.
Like now these days, the women now these days, they have to speak their mind because that's
Hmm.
a strength. You have to show that you're strong
Hmm.
and tough, and you know um it says speak her mind at all times. Like now these days, the women is to do because that's how we show that we're strong,
Hmm.
how wrong we are these days. And that just when I read this, it just melts my heart a little bit because it just showed me that God has a special place
Hmm.
for women, that
Hmm.
he cares about our deep thoughts. He cares about our desires,
Hmm.
what we're feeling, what we're thinking, even if we
Yes.
don't express it.
Hmm.
So you're special. If I can say something, women, you're special to God.
Amen.
And he has a purpose for you, and he wants to hear your deepest desires,
Hmm.
your deepest thoughts, your struggles,
Hmm.
your insecurities. He wants to be there for you. He's the God of details.
Hmm. What would you say to someone that doesn't know what you know, that doesn't have Jesus in their heart? What would you say? What would you tell them now that to the person that is lost and they don't know what to do and they don't know where to go? What would be your
I would tell them to make the decision.
hmm,
That is, for me, it has been the best decision I made. My life changed. I don't know where I would be now if I wouldn't have said yes to him.
hmm,
Um, you don't have to overthink things.
hmm.
Just say yes to him, and he'll walk with you at your own pace. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video podcast. Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone, for listening to us, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.